Okay, welcome everybody. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law, and we're about to start chapter 47. Chapter 47. Siman Mem Zayin. So to give a background, a bit of an introduction, it's Hilchas Stam Yainim, the halacha of Stam wine. I'll explain this in a moment. The Hekshe Kalim Memeno, and how to kasha utensils that have had this Stam wine. So what is this wine? So in theory, wine is kosher. It's always kosher because you take grapes are kosher, and you squeeze out the juice, and then it ferments, then you have wine. So unless they started making fancy flavors or cocktails type things, the wine itself should in theory always be kosher. Now we have a category that is a halachically problem, a Torah problem, and that is yayin nesach. So yayin nesach means that the wine was dedicated or was moved. Right? They moved it. They did something to offer it to an idol. So that type of wine is forbidden from the Torah because we can't have any benefit from something that was used for an idol. Something that was used for an idol is forbidden to have any benefit from. So that's yain nesach. So those are the two original categories: wine that's been used for an idol, and wine that hasn't. In the times of the Greeks, pre-Hanukkah, during the Greek occupation, there came a third. Well, the truth is actually even earlier. It first happened in the times of Pinchas, right, in Midian, but it was expanded on in the times of the Greeks. So the original prohibition was in times of Pinchas. In other words, in times of Moses, before the Jewish people went into the land of Israel. And we know that many Jewish men got caught up with Midianite women and immorality and led them to worship idols. And therefore, there was a prohibition made on a non-Jew's wine because it leads to intermarriage, and it doesn't have to be an actual marriage. It leads to, when we drink together with them, this we see what it led to was a national tragedy. And then in times of the Greeks, it expanded to also make it forbidden for benefit, because we saw that there were many non-Jews who, any wine that came their way, they would offer it to the idols. They would like move it with the hand or something, and that made it in order to dedicate it to their idols. And it ended up that any wine on the market had a very large chance, highly likely chance of actually being offered. So it got to a point where even wine that we have no evidence to say that it was offered to an idol, there's the presumption that it was. Now, even though nowadays, although they still do use wine in Christianity and other places that have idols, but most people aren't that religious. But nevertheless, the decree is in place. So this wine that we don't know that it's been offered, but it has not been supervised for a Jew and then double sealed, hasn't been handled by Jews and then double sealed. Once it's double sealed, then it doesn't matter what the non-Jew does to it. They can't directly move the wine. So we're going to presume it's a problem. So let's go to number one. Number one, Sif Aleph. Stam Yainim. Right? So literally ordinary, unknown status. Bisman hazeh, nowadays. Right? Nowadays, meaning also like our days, it's probably even less than in Rabbi Shlomo Gunsfried's time, where most people don't just start offering any wine that comes their way to their deities. So too, if a non-Jew touches our wines nowadays, yesh omrim, there is an opinion, that it's only forbidden for drinking, but it is not forbidden to have benefit. There is such an opinion. Now, generally, we go strict. We're going to see that we're strict about this. However, why do we mention this opinion? Because if there's another factor to permit it, we can combine it with this and go. So, for those just joined us, for you people just joined, and was someone else just joining us, we're chapter 47. Chapter 47. Okay, chapter 47. So they're giving a definition of stam yainim, right? So stam yain, it's wine of unknown status. So what are the known statuses? So on the one extreme, it was handled by Jews, and it was double sealed. Even if it got handled by non-Jews in the interim, but it was only after it was double sealed. Then it comes to us. This is what we will call kosher wine, right? It's being protected. Then you have wine that's yain nesach. A non-Jew dedicated it or offered it to his idol, to his deity. So that is 100% non-kosher, and you can't have any benefit because it's something that was used for idol worship. So you can't have any benefit from it. Then we have wine that is unknown status. So it's been handled by non-Jews, and we don't know if they've dedicated to their idol or not. So we'll just start number one again, because we had quite a few people join us. Stam yainen, this unknown status wine. Bismanazeh nowadays. Nowadays means when your average non-Jew, when he touches wine, is not offering it to his deity. He's not doing that anymore. So too, if a non-Jew touches our wine nowadays, our kosher wine, yesh omrim, there is an opinion that says that it's only forbidden to drink, and you could still have benefit from it. And therefore, a Jew could take a non-Jew's wine as collateral or payment for a debt owed him. Because it's like rescuing his debt from the person. Because if he doesn't take it, he won't get paid. And v'hua din b'shar hefsid. So what we're doing is we're taking, well, literally means the same thing with any other financial loss. So we're taking this leniency that nowadays most non-Jews are not offering wine to idols, combining with another leniency of great financial loss, and we will make it permissible to have some benefit from this wine. So what's another example of financial loss? Going for example, in Abba V'Koina, he transgressed and he bought it. We don't say throw it out. We say you could sell it off. But in the first instance, so when are we being lenient? If a person's getting stuck. But in the first instance, also this taka boy, it is forbidden to purchase or to handle or to deal with this non-Jewish wine to make profit. However, there are authorities who are lenient, and we should be strict. So just to give practical rulings, right? If someone owns a wine or import business, they import, buy and sell wines, they have a store, there is potentially room to be lenient, and they should discuss with their rabbi. But us regular folk, if we get a bottle of this non-kosher wine by mistake, unless we spent a huge amount of money on it, someone buys some $500 bottle of wine or something, then maybe he could gift it or sell it. But normally you would just get rid of it. Okay. So this is when the benefit is through drinking. Number 2, you are allowed to have a different type of benefit. So apparently, some people used to bathe in wine as some type of therapy. I don't know, a beauty treatment, or maybe it's good for your joints. I'm not sure. I've never taken a bath in wine myself, so I can't tell you the benefits. But it seems that some people do this. So you're allowed to do that, even for a sick person without a life-threatening situation. Obviously, life-threatening situation, kashrus is not so much of an issue. But even non-life-threatening situation, I will just emphasize.
So champagne after a football win is okay?
To bathe in it. Yeah.
To shower in it.
Yeah. Sharon, well, just make sure it doesn't go on your head, maybe because of the fall in your mouth. But this is, of course, about nowadays, where the norm is your average non-Jew does not offer the wine to their deities. If it ever goes back to how like it was, that as soon as a non-Jew sees some wine, he quickly offers it to his deity, then we wouldn't be able to have any benefit, even having a bath in it. Okay. Now, number 3 is going to be I don't know if the leniency is the right word, but it's a change of circumstances. Yain kosher nisbashal, kosher wine that's being cooked. I know tirtiach nismat midasai de harticho. It's been heated. It doesn't necessarily to be boiled, although that normally this word is used to be boiled, but it means it's heated to the point where you lose some of it due to the heat. So it evaporates, in other words. So today, most halachic authorities consider pasteurization to be in this category. It's cooked wine. So when you see many kosher wines, it says yain mevushal, which means cooked wine. You'll see it's been pasteurized. So they didn't boil it up. It was the pasteurization process that happens anyway. So when it's been cooked, then the halacha changes. Why? Im nega boy akum. Now, even if a non-Jew touched it after it's been cooked, of course, mutar lafila b'shtia. You can even drink it now, because cooked wine is not fit. It's not appropriate. It's not good enough anymore to be offered as an offering. But wine that anna was added in, it's a type of herb, shkorim vermut. It's called wormwood herb, was added. As long as it's still called wine, so it's wine with the herb added, as opposed to the herb with a drop of wine. The loin is partial and hasn't been cooked, now so you can't have it. So it doesn't have to necessarily be this herb. It's the concept. In other words, anything that has the wine in it is problematic. This particular herb, though, because it's bitter, has a bitter, it's a very strong bitter flavor, and it fundamentally changes the flavor of the wine. So it goes out of the category of being wine if it's the majority. But as long as you still call it wine, people still call it wine, so it's only a small amount of it, then it's going to be problematic. We can't drink this wine. Okay, so cooked wine, we don't have a concern about a non-Jewish person touching it. Okay, 4, tavshil. Now, food that we cook, that wine was mixed into it. So sometimes we put wine into food as an ingredient to give it some flavor. So if the wine's cooked, well, it didn't matter anyway. So we're talking about regular, non-cooked, non-mavushal wine, and you pour it put some into the food. So now it's going to depend. The eineno nikar, and the wine is not recognizable. It's not discernible. Then even if the food has not heated up to the point where it's going to evaporate, it does not become prohibited with a non-Jew touching it. Now, just to make it clear, most of the time we look at wine being an ingredient in something and we say it's not kosher. The finished product is not kosher. This is because the non-Jew touched the wine and then the wine was used in ingredient. Here, it's a slightly different case. So I just want to make sure get this case clear. This is a Jew takes his kosher wine and puts it into food that the Jew is making. After it's put in the food, the non-Jew touches the food. That's when we say it's not a problem, because the wine has been mixed in, it's not recognizable anymore. Okay. Number 5, yayin mazuk, diluted wine. So at a certain point, you're going to dilute wine, and it's just colored water. It's water, has the taste of water. It looks like water. This water's just got a slight pinkish or something thing look. So we're not worried about it anymore. It's not considered wine halachically. So where is the cutoff? At what point is it considered wine, and what point is it no longer considered wine? Im yesh bo shisha chalokim mayim. If has a ratio 6 parts water to 1 part wine. So the wine is 1 in 7. Then bottle hayayin, the wine becomes nullified, and therefore it does not become prohibited. It remains kosher if a non-Jew touched it, because it's just colored water now. It's not wine. Aval yain smukim, but raisin wine. Now shnasamayim al smukim. How do you make that? You make that by soaking raisins in water. Harizeh kayain gomer. This is considered regular wine, even though there's a lot more water, and it's maybe the ratio is enough. But what happens is it ferments the whole process and actually turns it into, it's a poor quality wine, but wine it is. And it says only common Simon no Gimel. You can look in the end of chapter 53, and you see various laws about this this type of wine and what blessing you make and different things. Just to mention, so there was prohibition, of course. I knew a family that the grandparents of the family. So the granddaughter, the grandmother, she was a child during prohibition. So what happened was they used to make in their basement. They used to make raisin wine for kiddush, not for drinking and partying or selling it. They didn't work for Al Capone. But for the local Jewish families, they used to make raisin wine in the basement, so people can make kiddush. And on Fridays in Erev Yontif, she used to deliver on her bicycle. She had a little basket on her bicycle. Used to put into little containers in a little basket, and they covered over. And I guess the police weren't suspicious of little girls riding their bike. Right? So she used to deliver the wine for people's kiddush. and it was raisin wine. Baruch Hashem, we live a higher standard of living today. Used to be people were poorer. This is what they used to have, and even if it wasn't prohibition, but I don't think too many people have raisin wine nowadays. Hearing this story was the first time I actually heard about raisin wine. And they used to make it. Okay, 6, temed. So temed is also a cheap wine knockoff. So what they do, temed is made as follows. After they squash all the grapes and all the juice comes out, you're left with the skin and the seeds. And probably technically there might be little minute amounts of juice left in the seeds, but it's the skin and the seeds. So if you take this skin and seeds and you soak it in water, it'll also ferment, and that creates a lower quality wine called temed. I'm not sure if it has a name in English. I don't think so.
Dregs.
Well, but the actual drink, you soak the dregs, but the actual wine that's made out of it. So I don't know, but that's how they make it. So hatemed, the hainu, what is it? He's giving a definition. Maim shnoisim al chatzanim oy al shmorim. Wine that's poured onto, literally, but in other words, you soak the grape seeds or the skins, and you leave it to soak, and eventually, kol shel meshubach l'shtia, anything that's good enough quality to drink. Anything that's good enough quality to drink. So when you soak it the first time, if you put the right amount, it makes a wine, a small, not the best quality wine, but wine nevertheless. Ein latiram nega by akum. You can't permit it if a non-Jew touches it. In other words, it has the same law as regular wine. Okay. Number 7. So we're going to discuss grapes that are in the vat. So what do they? What do you do? You put the grapes. You tread on the grapes. I mean, usually they use a large wine press, but you could do it like the small quantities of the old days. They put in the bucket and dance on it, whatever. You squeeze it out. But what happens is then it flows into a vat underneath. So we're going to talk about this vat. So in a press, they put the grapes in the vat, and they have an opening at the bottom of the vat, and that opening has a plug, right? And as they squeeze everything, then you open the plug and you let the grape juice out. That'll eventually make wine. Now, the juice, or grape juice, is also considered wine for this. Okay, so anovin deruchis begigis. You have pressed grapes in the vat. Once even the smallest amount of juice has flowed out of it, because grapes is not a problem. Grapes is not a problem. Even if one of the grapes gets squashed a little bit, it's not a problem. You're allowed to buy grapes and eat the grapes, even though they contain grape juice. The fact that non-Jews touch them is irrelevant. But once they've been pressed in the vat, even just a small amount came out. They just started the pressing. Or you drew wine from it with a utensil. So again, you've done that. Nikra kol yain. Now everything in the vat is considered wine. But neser b'maga akum, and if a non-Jew touches what's in the vat, even though the majority of this grape juice is still in the grapes, the whole thing becomes forbidden, becomes not kosher. Noga ela b'chatzanim of a zagim, even if you only touch peels and seeds. And therefore, so what do you got to do? Vats of pressed grapes on this base akum that are in a non-Jewish property. Yesh le'esoi. they're not kosher. In case the non-Jew drew wine from the vat. It's also prohibited. It makes the wine prohibited if a non-Jew press the wines. Even in a plugged vat. Okay, so the bottom line is when we make wine, we to make a kosher wine, we need to have Jewish staff. I mean, could be today in many large places. A lot of it's automated and it's machines that do it, and the person who turns on the machine is in a different room, so that may not be an issue. But anything that's going to happen physically, person applying pressure physically or being involved physically, is going to be very problematic if non-Jews are involved. Number 8. You should also be careful not to have a non-Jew remove the peels and seeds from the wine presses. Even after you've taken the wine out from the first pressing and from the second pressing. So what's the problem? If you took out the wine, why is it a problem? Because they may still be moist from the wine, the grape juice we're talking about. It didn't ferment yet, but the grape juice is also considered wine. So, in other words, the fact that the skins and seeds are still moist enough that if you touch it with your finger or a cloth or something, there'll be moisture on your finger. It'll actually create wetness. That's still a problem. So we can't have them involved. Number 9. If you have a non-Jew that he poured water into the wine, so then it depends. It's going to depend now. In this coven, the Moise guy, if he intended to dilute the wine, right? Because used to be in Talmudic times, the wine they made was stronger, so you had to dilute it to make it drinkable. So if he intended to dilute it, then osa b'shtia, you're no longer able to drink this wine. Why? Because when you are diluting it, it's very easy to touch it, and it could be he touched it. But if he did not intend to dilute it, or even if there's a doubt, we don't know what his intention was, mutter, as long as we didn't see him actually touch it, we can presume he didn't. Okay. Number 10. Wine vinegar that was produced from kosher wine. So we're not talking about wine that was touched by non-Jews before it became vinegar. It was produced by Jews. It was double sealed, whatever it was protected. It didn't come in any contact with non-Jews. And at a certain point, you'd made vinegar out of it. And only after it's vinegar does it potentially get touched. So then it depends. If it's so strong, the vinegar, so vinegary, that it bubbles when you pour it on the ground, it can no longer become prohibited through a non-Jew touching it. Because even though it's wine vinegar, but it's not wine anymore. No one offers vinegar to a deity. Right? So it's totally vinegar. But if it's wine vinegar made from the stam yain, in other words, the categoryless, the wine with that category, in other words, a non-Jew touched it, we just don't know if he offered it to his idol. It remains prohibited forever. No matter how strong the vinegar becomes, the fact is, since it was touched while it was still wine, we cannot use this wine vinegar. So wine vinegar has to be produced by a kosher place. Okay. Number 11. Similarly, the liquor that's made from the wine of idolaters. So brandy, for example, is made from wine. I don't know if anything else is made from port. I guess is made from wine. So therefore, any drink, any liquor that's made from wine, even though it's no longer wine, or even if it was made from the peels or the seeds or the leaves, anything. It has the halacha of wine itself, and since the wine it was made from was not kosher, so this drink is not kosher. However, kosher, if you made this brandy from kosher wine, so the wine was produced by Jews, it was protected properly, it wasn't touched by anyone, it shouldn't be touched, and then you turned it into brandy. Or so once it becomes brandy already, it no longer becomes prohibited by a non-Jew touching it. Okay. Number 12. We're going to discuss a Weinstein, right? Literally, like wine stones. Okay. English is called tartar or cream of tartar. So it's a residue that when in the vats, or sorry, not the vats, the wine barrels, they accumulate some type of residue, and people gather it and they use it like in baking powder or in some medicines. They used to use it. So this Weinstein, this tartar, nispashe minig lahatir. The custom has been accepted that it's kosher. We're not worried about it. Because it doesn't give any hana, any benefit to the mouth, to the palate. Right? Because it I guess doesn't have any taste or not any good taste. And we don't, because it's a double combination. You know, we're going to combine the fact that we don't know if this wine was offered to a deity or not, and it's only it's this residue, it's a separate substance, so we're not so concerned. Okay, so till now we spoke about a non-Jew touching the wine directly. If he touches non-mavushal, non-cooked wine directly, it makes it not kosher. Number 13.
Say it's called. Say it's called. What?
Sorry?
Weinstein. Weinstein.
Weinstein, yeah. I guess it'll be Weinstein, but yeah.
Is that how people got such a name?
I don't know if that's where the name comes from. Could be. That's it. They were descended from Tartars, so they did a play on words. So Maga, number 13. Maga akam alidei davar achar. The non-Jew touched the wine with something else. So let's say he used a stick. He's moved it with a stick. Likewise, wine that came out with his koyach, his force. So, for example, he lifted the barrel, he turned it over, and he poured it out. So he didn't touch the wine, but it's come into the new utensil with his energy. Now you have to ask a rabbi. Once again, one of the things that Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it's only a summary, it doesn't go into all the possibilities. It's probably going to be problematic. I'll just point out a few things. Gloves is not considered indirect touch. Right? The fact that he has gloves, so he touched it with his hand, but his hand never touched it. The gloves is considered the same thing as his hand. So that's not going to help. It doesn't help to give the guy gloves. But if they touched it indirectly or he poured it, there's potentially room to be lenient if there's other factors involved. And so if a person's in that situation, they should contact the local competent Orthodox rabbi. Okay, number 14. Shleach yain al yedei akum. Someone, he sends wine, it's a delivery truck or something. He sends it through a non-Jew. Tzarich lashgiach heitiv. He has to be extremely careful. Any place where there's a stopper or what they call it, the wine barrels, a spigot, like the little tap thing, or there's a stopper, a cork or anything. Lachtoim sham b'shnei chisamus has to be sealed with 2 seals, right? And this is really, it's not that the 2 seals stop the non-Jew being involved. What it does, though, is that if he opens it, it's recognizable. Right? We can see that it's been tampered with. And that's why we need 2 seals. So as long as we can see that it hasn't been tampered with, it's never been opened, never been interacted with, then the wine remains kosher. Or as we said, we can cook the wine. This is talking about non-cooked wine. Number 15. So those who joined us, chapter 47, Siman Mem Zayin, we're up to number 15, Sif Tesvov. So you have a Jew produces wine of a non-Jew to make it kosher. So in other words, the grapes belong to the non-Jew, the wine company, but he's employed a Jew to come do it, to run the process. In order so he can sell it afterwards to Jews. He wants the Jew to run the process, keep it kosher, so he can sell his wine to Jews. So there are many detailed halachas or laws in this. And there will be times even 2 seals and the key is not going to help. And therefore you're going to have to, if someone who's going to go into this arrangement has to consult with a Moira Hira, a competent halachic authority, kedas malasois, how to do it. And nevertheless, someone who guards his soul, so he wants to be very frum, should avoid such wine. So really the issues are like this. We have a concern that if, it's all his. So why shouldn't he touch it? Why shouldn't he come inspect it? Why shouldn't he taste it? It has seals. It's his company. He'll put back seals. It's locked. It's his lock. So the normal, 2 seals. If I have my bottle of wine, it's got 2 seals. So there's a concern that we're not worried about the non-Jew breaking open the seals. We'll recognize it. And he probably won't want to do it because it'll be recognized. He doesn't want to be a thief and get caught. Maybe do something without being caught is one thing. But the 2 seals, it's going to be obvious that he tampered with it. But when it belongs to the person himself, the non-Jew himself, he doesn't, there's no problems. Today we do such things. We do batches in places, but, they have video cameras. There's a lot of, we have access to other things. It's talking about the video cameras. It's not wine, but just to there was, or truth is, at least was, possibly still is. There's a 7-Eleven in Monsey that has kosher hot dogs. They have kosher hot dogs. So I don't know if you've ever been in the 7-Elevens and they have the hot dogs. They go on like these little rollers and they go this whole thing. So they have one count. Maybe they have a counter that also says non-kosher. I don't know. Maybe the whole thing's kosher, but they have a counter that's the kosher. Now, you're not going to have mishgiach there 24/7 because, they close, and also Shabbos and Yom Tov. So in the past, you wouldn't be able to have such an arrangement because you don't know what happens when you're not there. And meat has been left unsupervised and meat utensils. But today, so what they have, there's like 4 different video cameras at different angles on this section. and they're able to review exactly what happened to this piece of machinery in this area, even when the mashgiach is not there. I think they only sell them when the mashgiach is there. Right? They only actually make and sell the hot dogs when the mashgiach is there, but there's a mashgiach the rest of the time. I haven't been there myself, although I part of me really wants to try it one time just to say I had a hot dog from 7-Eleven. But probably won't though. It's like the same. I have this there's a IKEA in outside of Bet Shemesh in Israel. So you go to IKEA and they have these $1.99 meals and stuff and different things. And okay, we're not tempted to have the non-kosher chas v'shalom, but I do have this thing just to go to IKEA in Israel just to get the meal one time.
IKEA?
Probably. Sorry.
IKEA makes furniture.
Yeah, but they have food there.
Oh, yeah.
See, we're so uninterested in non-kosher food that we don't even notice that it's there, Baruch Hashem.
They
But
have McDonald's in Israel.
yeah, they have McDonald's in Israel. Yeah, some of them don't have such a good hechsher though. There's only one or two. I did go to one of the good ones, and I had it was very disappointing. And I was still living in Australia at the time, and I when I came back, I told my I had some non-Jewish staff in the school, and I told them it was so disappointing. I said, like the bun was like half stale. I don't remember all the complaints. The fries weren't properly cooked. I had like 5-6 complaints, and they said, "Yeah, that's right." I said, "Well, if that's so, what do you all go for?" He says, "Because it's cheap." So we're not missing anything.
The
We're not
milkshakes,
missing anything. Sorry,
the milkshakes are good.
the milkshakes are good. Okay, I don't know.
Milk.
Yeah, actually, this kosher one, it had yet to buy from different. Actually, the store was divided into two with a wall in between. And they had milkshakes. They still sold the milkshakes, and then they had the burgers, and so I guess the cheeseburgers were made in the middle somewhere. No, not chas v'shalom. They didn't make them in the kosher ones, but
The food is so cheap, so good, so cheap. It tastes wonderful. Especially
maybe. But I'm certainly my experience, we're not missing anything. All right. So till now we've discussed the wine. Now we're going to discuss the utensils that the wine's made on. All right. So now we want to make kosher wine using utensils that this non-kosher wine was made on, that non-Jews touched. So, like anything, when it's used for non-kosher, you can't use it. Now, it's slightly different here. Normally, let's say a non-kosher oven. Let's use that example. So the issue is the heat. The heat has caused the flavor of whatever was cooked in it to be absorbed into the walls and shells of the oven. So you actually have to kasher it. You have to purge the shells and the walls and the oven from the taste that's been absorbed. But wine is made when it's all cold. So it's slightly different. Let's see what we need to do. Halim shel stam yain. You have this number 16. The utensils used
I hate
for
this.
wine.
I know.
So if it's wine again, if it's
I'm
wine that's for
totally
sure being
out
offered,
of my
it's a separate issue. Here we have it's stam. It's the unknown status, which we presume is non-kosher. Now, imhem kalim shem aderech achsich behem yain elizman kotzer. If it's the utensils used in the part of the process that hold the wine for a short time. What's the definition of short? The gamla hayabema yain ace la ace. Wine did not remain in them for 24 hours. Then it's going to be much more lenient. Because just to point out another rule, a principle in kashrus, just like heat causes the flavor to absorb into something. So too, if you soak something for 24 hours, if it soaks for 24 hours, then that also causes the flavor to be absorbed into it through the soaking of 24 hours. So if it's less than 24 hours, it's not a problem. Once it hits 24 hours, it becomes problematic. So I'm sure there's certain vats and barrels where the wine sits in ages, but there's certain parts, maybe it just presses and it pushes it out and whatever it is, it's less than 24 hours. So any part, any utensil that is used for less than 24 hours, Bain Shem oil, whether they're made of leather, Bain Shem shall eight, they're made of wood, Shall zechuchis or glass, Shall evan or stone, Shall matachis or metal, doesn't make a difference. Im einon muzoposim, as long as they're not coated with like a pitch, right? They used to put like pitch, like tar as a sealant, which that absorbs automatically. So as long as it doesn't have this coating, then what do? You wash them well in water 3 times, and they're permitted, because it was only ever used for cold. It was only there a short amount of time, not 24 hours. So we wash them really well once, then the second time, then a third time, and we can use them to make kosher wine now. Bimhei misoposim, if they're coated with pitch, yesh them din achra, they have a totally different law. V'chein kalicheres, likewise earthenware vessels, which are also very porous. Yesh lehem din achra also have a different law. So it doesn't tell us what to do over here, because again, it's Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it's the abridged. But practically speaking, we're not going to be able to use them. But in big Shulchan Aruch we do, in full Shulchan Aruch we do have potentially, if it was combination with several other factors, but for, let's say, for practical purposes, we can't use those ones. Number 17. Now we have a different type of utensil, and they're made to store wine. Dahainu, meaning they're designated to hold the wine for at least 3 days. Now, even though this utensil belongs to a Jew, and the guy only, the non-Jew only stored the wine for a short time. This has to be kashed through iroi. So what's iroi? Iroi is like this. We're going to learn inside, but I'll just explain it. Iroi means we boil water and we pour the boiling water onto the surface. Now that sounds simple, but it's actually far more complicated. Iroi is actually very difficult to do, because what happens is, if I pour, let's just use a stainless steel countertop as an example. If I pour it, the only thing it held for was the exact spot that it touched, where it hit. But water spreads. So as soon as it hits, it spreads outwards. And then if I move the boiling water, it doesn't help, because iroi only helps on a dry surface. Because if you put it onto water that's already there, it cools it down. It doesn't have the same impact. So to do iroi, you either got to have someone going around following you with towels or different things. What ends up happening, commercially, people don't bother about it. They just bring a blowtorch or something. They burn the counter to bits. Some people don't know how to do that either, because some people think that the blowtorch is a magic wand. If you just wave it around, it kashes, but it actually has to get hot, right? You're meant to heat it. You have to leave it in a spot long enough that it actually heats, not wave a magic blowtorch. But I don't know about wine vats, because I never tried to kasher them before. But countertops, the other thing is to do iroi, and as you go along, you have some type of very hot object. So, and then you drag it along the water, and this hot object causes the water to boil. So it actually boils on the surface. So what I have an iron, but the old-fashioned irons. I found an antique store. The irons they used to put on the hot plate. It's just a chunk of metal, well, not electric iron, and they heated it up, and then so you actually you can't hold it in your hand. It's pretty hot. You have to have special gloves or a rag or something. And then as you do the iroi, you have the iron with you, and this causes the water to boil even if it's spread. And boiling water is better than the poured water. Actually does a better job. If you don't have one of those, another way to do it is you take a brick. The bricks, regular building bricks, they have the holes in them, and you put a coat hanger through the hole so you can control it. The only thing is, if it's your counter at home or something, or even not home, but it can scratch. It's not smooth. The iron I have is smooth. Bricks are a bit rough. And, some things, a commercial doesn't matter, a little scratch. Some things, if you scratch it up, it could be very problematic. I won't say names, but I was learning by a very prominent rabbi for a period of time, a leading halachic authority, and he was discussing this using the brick with the cone hanger. And the shear was a special koilel for training rabbonim, and the shear, they asked him, "Do you do that?" He says, "No," and they asked why. So he turned off the recording. He says, "Because it'll scratch the counter, and his wife will be upset with him." And then he turned back on the recording. Right, that's how it goes. But iroi is this process. It's one step down from it being boiled directly. The haino. So how do you do this? Shemalim es kli mayim al kol gedoisav. You fill the utensil with water to overflowing. V'yamid kachla poches choftal l'shois me'es l'eis, and it stays this way for 24 consecutive hours. V'achekach shoifech es amayim. Oh, he's giving me another way to do it. Then you pour out the water. You put in a second filling of water. And you do that for 24 hours. You do this a third time. Okay, so this is a different type of iroi. So I told you the wrong one. My apologies. This is not pouring out from the boiling water. This is you soak something. Essentially, you soak it 3 times 24 hours. And again, this is because it was used for cold. Why this can work. Now these 24-hour periods don't have to be consecutive. In other words, with no gap in between. There can be a gap in between as long as you didn't use it for anything in between. But if you leave the same water for several days, and you didn't pour it out, it only counts a 124-hour period. Yesh Oimrim. Now there is an opinion that says that if the wine was in this, the non-kosher wine was in this utensil for 24 hours, this method will not work for kashering. Because we have a principle that when you soak something, it's like it was cooked. It absorbs by soaking something in a utensil. The utensil absorbs the flavor as if you cooked in the utensil. By hagola, and now you have to boil it. You have to boil. You have to immerse it into boiling water. And unless there's a huge, tremendous need, you should be strict. Okay, squeezing one more. 18. Klizachuchis, glass. Now, glass is different to most other utensils. Right? So earthenware, we said, can't be kosher because it's so porous when it soaks. Metal is porous, but we can boil it up and different things. But glass Kivan shem chalokim v'koshim, since the surface of glass is smooth and hard, even if wine is stored in it, just rinsing them out well 3 times is sufficient. So, I mean, today we have paper plates and different things, so it's much easier. Before they were so common, plastic cups and all the different things. If you had to go somewhere, you could rely, if it was cold, let's say having a cold drink, a glass of water, you could, if you would take a clean, cold glass, you could have something cold out of it. All right, so it's there is an opinion. Please don't do this, what I'm going to say, but there is an opinion that if it was glass, you could have the same set of dishes for meat and milk. Now, of course, even if it does work, it's a disaster waiting to happen, right? Because something might be cleaned properly, so a person should not do this. But like I said, today you go to a hotel, different things. There's paper plates. There's all different kinds of things you can have. Once upon a time, you had the glass, and that's what we used. All right. So maybe we'll stop here. Any questions?
Thank you.
So I would like to thank you for your very nice comment. I appreciate it that you put on the article. Thank you.
This rabbi that turned off the tape recorder.
Yes.
There's a halakha permissibility for what he was doing. It's called pekuach nefesh.
That's right. That's right. That he's a great man, holy Jew, a great scholar. Just if he didn't want it recorded that he said that, I didn't think I should say the name, say publicly that he said that. But tremendous figure in the Torah world today.
You can turn off the recording and tell us what. I'm just kidding.
So we wish everyone a wonderful week and a good Shabbos, and we'll see everyone next week, God willing.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Pleasure. Take care.